It's a time of war, and demons are rampaging on the land, indiscriminately attacking humans. Hope seems to be lost for all humanity, but just then, a dragon is seen hovering in the skies. It's the greatest exorcist of the land. Chanting a spell, the exorcist spreads destruction over the demon army, bringing victory to humanity. It has always been his dream to become the strongest, but this strength that he gained made the imperial court wary of him. On that awful night, the exorcist was brought to the end of his reign for going against the imperial court by taking his students hostage and sending his favorite student after him. He was boxed into a corner. Acknowledging that he was a fool who lacked cunning like his adversary, he decided to start over. As the building came crashing down on him, he cast a reincarnation spell, promising to do better in his next life. In an unsuspecting location, a father is casting a spell on his third son, Seika, to determine whether or not he has any magic ability. After chanting the spell, nothing significant happens to the stones laid down for the ritual. Glai, the second son, seems happy about this, and his father, Blaise Lamprouje, confirms that Seika has no magic ability. As it turns out, our protagonist, the greatest exorcist in the world, has been reincarnated into another world, born into the Lamprouje clan, an important clan of mages. Unfortunately, he wasn't born with any magical power, but Seika smiles as he realizes that he has incredible spiritual power. The following day, Seika practices magic with leaves, turning them into wild animals. Just then, his elder brother, Glai, comes to bully him. However, Seika uses some bird he had conjured to fight off the bully. Thankfully, his eldest brother, Luft, steps in time to save Glai. He asks if Seika is hurt, but Seika reassures him. However, Luft looks rather suspicious, and Seika notes this. It is Seika's 7th birthday, but there is no celebration for him. Most people generally leave him to himself, and Seika can't help but assume that it's probably because he's the son of a mistress. Out practicing by himself again, Seika notes that this world is not that much different from his previous world. Back in his room, he decides to make the paper talisman he used for casting spells back in his previous life. Just then, he hears a knock on the door. Opening it, Seika sees one of the maids, a girl named Yifa, returning one of his clothes to him, which he had found in the bushes. Seika knows that his brother, Glai, is the culprit, but doesn't say anything about it. He thanks the maid, but just then, Glai makes his way towards them, being the typical bully that he is. However, Seika, acting like a stupid pushover, doesn't give a rebuttal. Glai boasts away, saying he will be attending the famous school for mages, Imperial Lodonia Magic Academy. Glee takes his time to boast before Seika, but just then, Blaise appears with their eldest brother, scolding Glee. He urges Glai to follow him for their routine magic lessons, and Seika requests to follow, surprising their father, Blaise. On the training ground, Luft chants a spell that activates wind magic. He lets it loose, and the wind impressively slices through the rock target. Glai is then called upon, and he casts an impressive fire magic, earning the praise of their father. Seizing the chance, Glai, being the jerk that he is, decides to taunt Seika, challenging him to try his hands on a spell despite knowing he has no magic energy. Luft scolds Glai, telling him to stop. However, Seika finally decides to openly step up for himself, accepting the challenge. Seika draws out his inner spiritual energy, summoning a blue destructive flame that destroys its target. Everyone is shocked by this spell, which was done even without any incantation. Just then, Blaise notes that there are some people who can wield magic even without having any magic energy. Hearing this, Seika tells his father that he would like to learn magic. However, Blaise denies him, saying there has never been any record of successful mages who have no magic energy. However, he will give him the same tutelage he gives his two brothers. Hearing this, Seika is thankful. They end the training for the day, and Glee angrily snatches his wand back. Seika resolves to learn about this new world and decides to focus on his studies, watching his brothers train through the eyes of his paper bird talisman. However, Seika is diligent with his studies, but his father is watching him closely. The months passed very quickly, and Seika is now 11 years old. In his past life, Seika had been able to seal away otherworldly monsters, placing them under his control. He plans to reproduce that spell, but is rather skeptical of how things will go. Chanting a spell in an otherworldly language, Seika successfully opens a door to another dimension, calling forth one of his past spirit friends. A girl appears before him, and Seika is wondering if something is wrong with his spell. But before he can complete that thought, the girl leaps upon him, glad to see him again. Struggling to get her off him, Seika realizes that she's an old friend named Yuki. However, her appearance is a bit different this time, either because of the level of his spiritual energy or the influence of this new world. After getting acquainted, Seika is about to send her back, but she doesn't want to go back to the unpleasant dimension, so she transforms herself into an otherworldly creature and hides in his hair. The following day, Seika sees Yifa in trouble with Glai. After watching for a bit, things are about to get out of hand, so he decides to step in, almost getting into a fight with his brother, but saving Yifa in the process. She gives him her thanks and ushers him to follow her. Stepping out into the garden, she shows Seika a wounded creature, and using his strange magic, Seika successfully heals the creature. Yifa is amazed by this, praising Seika, but he points out that she has some special magic powers herself. Yifa tries to deny this, but Seika reveals that he can see the spirit creatures that she speaks to. Yifa then reveals her powers to him. Seika is impressed by this, noting how he had been looking for a caster with similar abilities to hers. Seika then asks her if she'd be interested in training with him. After a bit of persuasion with some demonstrations, he is finally able to convince her, and they spend the next few seasons training together. Time passes very quickly, and Seika is now 12 years old. However, being the son of a mistress, he doesn't get any presents as usual. Walking down the hallway, he is approached by his two brothers, who invite him for some swordsmanship training, since Seika would be joining the army as the family tradition. Just then, the maids rush up to them, informing them that a monster is headed their way. It doesn't take too long for them to spot the elder newt in the bushes. Glai runs away in fright, as Luft is dishing out order, but Seika rushes out much to Luft's dismay. Yifa and another maid are in trouble. However, Yifa uses her elemental magic against the creature, buying them enough time to run away. Seika is amazed by this, but the creature soon regains its composure. Setting its eyes on Seika, it gives chase. However, Seika isn't deterred, as he casts a single spell on the creature which takes it down instantly. Seeing this, everyone is stunned. However, they applaud his bravery, and Seika feels happy about this, deciding to be cunning as his enemies from his previous life. And that night, in a bid to commemorate Seika's victory over the elder newt, a grand feast was prepared. Everyone seems to be impressed with Seika, giving him words of praise except his brother Glee, who seems rather pissed. Curious to know how Seika had known how to defeat the monster, Blaze asks him about it, and Seika explains that he had read it in books and observed how his father, Blaze, had done it in the past. Satisfied by this answer, Blaze feels obliged to grant him a reward. Seizing the opportunity, Seika stands to his feet and requests to be enrolled in the Imperial Lodonia Magic Academy. Glai is visibly mortified by this, and even more so when Blaze agrees to this, telling him that he would have to pass the exams on his own. However, Seika's request doesn't end, and he asks to be accompanied by Yifa, who expresses her shock upon hearing this. His father shoots down the request, saying Yifa has zero magical skills, but Seika is determined to prove him wrong by helping Yifa cast an epic fire magic spell that totally blows everyone away. Blaze looks impressed and gives the green light. Glee can't stay quiet anymore and starts complaining about the family tradition of sending only one son to the Magic Academy and the other to the army. Blaze agrees and declares Seika will go to the academy while Glai heads to the army. Glai's totally shocked, but Blaze explains how Seika's been working his butt off studying and improving, while Glai's just been slacking. Glee loses it and challenges Seika to a duel. The winner goes to the academy. The loser gets kicked out of the house. Blaze asks if Seika's okay with this, and Seika agrees. Their mom's worried about Glai, but he won't back down. Blaze sets the ground rules. No weapons, no high-level spells, and he'll be the judge. And that night, Seika's making his paper talismans, and his friend Yuki's worried he might actually kill Glai. Seika brushes off her concerns. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. It's his eldest brother Luft, who wishes him a happy birthday and gives him a gift. He apologizes for not being nicer before, and asks Seika to go easy on Glai in the duel. After their chat, Seika checks out the glass pen with Yuki, but something feels off. Suddenly, a massive wind blasts through the window. Glai's standing there, demanding an immediate duel. Seika plays along, asking why he's so impatient. Glai goes nuts, casting a powerful fire magic spell against his dad's wishes. When the smoke clears, Seika's totally fine. Glai switches to wind magic, but Seika easily blocks it with light magic. Seika drops a paralysis spell on Glai, completely taking him down. Glai passes out, totally confused about what just happened. Seika remembers Glai calling him lucky about killing the elder newt, but Seika's been plotting this for months. He'd summoned his monster Bonds, who went to the mountains to mess with the elder newt. After executing his master plan, Seika carries Glai back home, glad nobody got hurt. Yuki comments on his roundabout way of dealing with humans, but Seika reminds her these are the same humans who killed him in his past life. Now he just wants to live smart among them. Spring rolls around, and it's time for Seika and Yuki to head to the Magic Academy. After saying goodbye to his brother, they hop in a carriage. Seika gives Yifa a magical stone to help her attract elementals. He gets motion sick, just like in his previous life. They arrive at the Imperial Lodonia Magic Academy. Back home, Blaze remembers taking Seika in, the mysterious kid dropped off by his missing brother, born with black hair and eyes, using magic since age 1. Blaze wonders if Seika's part demon, and hopes the academy will guide him toward being a hero, not a demon king. At the academy, Seika and Yifa get their lodging. Yifa tries to stay with him, but Seika completely misses her hints. Yuki later explains that Yifa's totally crushing on him. During registration, other noble kids recognize Seika's name. When checking magic abilities, Yifa shows a fire affinity, but Seika shows zero magical talent. The crowd starts muttering about him using connections. A red-haired commoner girl named Amyu shows up, shocking everyone by having an affinity for all 4 four elements. She immediately shuts down Seika, saying she hates people who use connections to get into the academy. During the practical exams, Yifa absolutely destroys the targets with insane, incantation-free spells that even shock the instructor. She apologizes for the destruction and walks back to an excited Seika. It's Seika's turn to take the exam, and he steps up. Everyone's buzzing about what he'll do since he has no magical powers, but Seika totally surprises them by casting a blue fire spell without even saying a word. Moving on to the next target, he hits them with a stone spell that's kinda wacky and unique. Then he jumps to the next one. Next up, he casts an ice and water spell, freezing the target solid. Everyone's shocked, like usual, but Yifa's super pumped about how it's all playing out. Later that night, the lady at the register swings by to check on things. Even with all the chaos Seika and Yifa caused, the instructor tells her that an even stronger student has shown up, someone who can use all the elements. The woman's unfazed, saying the girl is her student and might be the legendary hero destined to face the Demon King when he wakes up. After the exams, Seika and Yifa go to see their scores. Yifa's her usual anxious self, but Seika calms her down. He spots his name in third place, but while he's wondering who nabbed first, Yifa shouts in excitement as she finds her name in second. Seika's jaw drops. Surprise, surprise, the top student is the girl who's got vibes with all four elements. A few days after the winner announcements, they get an invite to their inn, saying they've officially enrolled in the academy. That night, Seika and Yifa head out to the entrance ceremony. On their way, Yifa's worried about not being able to serve him anymore, but Seika reassures her, saying she's just a student like him. Suddenly, Seika senses some weird energy, and Yifa notices a ton of dark elementals hanging out around them. Curious, Seika checks out the bushes and spots a huge magic circle. He tells Yifa they shouldn't mess with it since it belongs to the academy, but he uses one of his paper talismans to keep an eye on the place. They get to the banquet hall, and Yifa can't believe how massive it is. Seika digs into some food and urges her to join him. Just then, a red-haired girl named Amyu takes the stage, and everyone's glued to their seats as she starts talking about becoming the strongest. But out of nowhere, the magic circle lights up, and Seika senses, danger, demons are coming. Sure enough, the hall explodes as lesser demons crash the party. The students try to fight them off, but Seika can't help but think it's kinda pointless. Before he can step in, Amyu jumps into the fray and pushes back the demons. Seika watches, noticing the demons are acting weird, almost like they're searching for something. He decides to shift his focus back to the magic circle, and bingo, there's a higher level demon lurking by it. After dropping some advice to Yifa, Seika teleports straight to the magic circle's location. Confidently strutting up to the demon just looks down at him, feeling sorry for this clueless human kid. Trying to teach him a lesson, the demon summons some lackeys. They charge at Seika, but he takes down two in seconds, and with a wacky spell, he seals the last one, who looks tougher. The high-level demon thinks Seika's a big deal now and gets serious. Magic circles form around it, and a bunch of swords pop up. Acting a little cocky, Seika casts a simple spell, but the demon easily counters it. Surprised that it can see his paper talisman, Seika tries blurring its vision with another spell, but nah, that doesn't phase it either. The demon teleports a blade toward him, nearly skewering him. But plot twist, it's a decoy. The demon appears behind him and slices off his arm. They pause for a moment, and Seika takes the chance to ask what the demon wants. He digs for info and learns it's on a quest for the hero who was prophesied over a decade ago to take down the Demon King when he resurfaces. Guess who they're on the hunt for? Yep, Amyu, the red-haired girl. The battle kicks back into gear, and Seika finds himself dodging for his life. Out of nowhere, he gets impaled, and the demon starts tearing him apart. But just as the demon turns to leave, he hears a voice. It's Seika, totally fine and standing strong. Shocked, the demon's like, what? And hurls a blade into Seika's head, but it does squat. Seika casually keeps chatting, not even flinching. The demon tries again to finish him, but nothing seems to stick. Seika throws out a water spell, but the demon teleports away, summoning some magic beasts. He tries a second attack, but that flops too. The demon pops up behind and impales Seika again. But wait, this is all part of Seika's plan. He casts a crazy strong spell that brings the demon to its knees. The demon still seems like it can fight, but Seika shows a glimpse of his real power. He chants a summoning spell and calls in one of his strongest beasts. Ryu! The demon's eyes go wide. Even the Demon King couldn't summon something so epic. Ryu easily takes down the demon, but it tries to bolt. Luckily, Seika is on top of things and seals Ryu back before anything bad can happen. After the dust settles, Yuki jumps into Seika's arms, all worried and stuff. They head back to the academy, and Seika can't help but be amazed by how Amyu single-handedly took care of all the lesser demons. Seeing her in action fires him up, and he can't wait to help her get even stronger and be her friend. Fast forward a month after the demon showdown, and everyone's back to normal. One morning, Yifa joins Seika as they head to class. Out of the blue, Seika spots Amyu on her way to class too. He's super impressed and decides it's time to reach out and befriend someone strong like her. So, he calls out to her, but she totally shuts him down, telling him to never talk to her again before strutting off. No sweat for Seika though. He's ready to put in the effort to be friends. As they move toward class, Seika suddenly sees something above them. It's a giant pot, then it tips over, almost spilling its contents all over Seika and Yifa. With lightning-fast reflexes, Seika zaps them both out of the way away just in time. As he checks out the weird liquid, their instructor yells from the window, asking if they're all right. He steps outside to grab his pot, apologizing for the mess, and explaining he was practicing levitation with dark magic, but still struggling since he specializes in light magic. Seika can't help but be impressed that a human can juggle two clashing elements like that. Later on, their teacher announces that the top students are getting sent on a mission to deliver a student roster in the Lodonia forest. But Seika recalls the dangers of that forest and gets anxious for Yifa. He offers to take her place, and the teacher happily agrees, since Yifa is fine with it. As they walk back to their dorms after class, Yifa starts feeling jealous, worrying that Seika might have a crush on Amyu. Seika clears it up, saying all he wants is a strong friend. He then apologizes for his behavior in class, and Yifa accepts his apology with a smile. Now it's time for Seika and Amyu to head out on their mission to the forest. The teacher hands them the roster to deliver, and they set off. Amyu starts chatting, curious about Seika's intentions. He tells her he just wants to be friends, but she misinterprets it, wondering if he likes her. Suddenly, Amyu gets a sharp pain in her head, and Seika spots a magic circle nearby. They check it out together, but out of nowhere, the circle activates, pulling them into a strange dungeon. They're instantly attacked by some lizard men. Amyu goes first, showing some serious skills and taking them out fast, but she lets her guard down and gets attacked by another one. Thankfully, Seika's got her back, casting wood magic and taking it out quickly. Amyu starts to get more cautious as they venture deeper into the dungeon. Strolling down the dark hall, they chat, and to up their chances of making it out, Seika casts some light magic, impressing Amyu. But as they move along, Seika uses his paper talismans to ensure they can easily find their way out when they need to. As Yuki is giving Seika some serious props for his brilliance, a squad of tough monsters rolls in. As usual, Amyu isn't backing down, flexing her epic sword skills, but man, these monsters are just too much for her. Enter Seika, who steps up like a boss, casting some wood magic and wiping out those monsters in style. But oh snap, when he sees that Amyu's out cold, he knows he has to act fast. He goes ahead and summons this huge centipede beast. A bloody clash breaks out, and Seika feels way more chill, leaving the monster to handle it. Eventually, Amyu comes back to her senses, but the headache hits her like a truck again. Seika thinks it might be a curse and decides to throw up a barrier to help her. He tells her what's up, but Amyu waves it off, claiming she doesn't see any curse mark. But then he drops the bomb that it could be somewhere he can't see, and she gets all flustered. Feeling awkward, she starts taking off her clothes so he can check her back, but he finds nothing either. Still, Seika sticks to his guns, convinced it's a curse, since the barrier is keeping her pain in check. He asks for a hair strand to transfer the curse to his talisman. After that, they kick back and get to know each other, bonding over some casual chatter. Seika opens up about his past. He's the son of a mistress, and Amyu shares how she was shunned growing up for loving to fight. After some time, Seika notices his talisman glowing, and he realizes he knows his location now. But instead of bailing, he decides to keep adventuring with Amyu. They dive deeper into the dungeon, take on more monsters, and eventually find the big boss monster. The duo teams up and Seika jumps in, casting his wood spell, but it flops hard. Even Amyu's wind magic can't quite cut it, so they sync up. Seika summons a massive explosion of lace, and Amyu lights it up with fire magic, causing a blast that finishes off the boss. After the duel, Amyu is over the moon and hugs Seika, thrilled about her first boss kill, feeling totally in sync with him. Then she catches herself and lets go, feeling a bit shy, but Seika is stoked to see her leveling up. They gather their loot, with Amyu scooping up the sword and Seika snagging the ring. They head back to the academy to inform the teachers, but conveniently skip over the details about the curse and Seika's spells. Afterward, Seika strolls over to his instructor's office. He spills the tea about Amyu's curse, and Mr. Cordell quickly realizes Seika is onto him. Seika lays out all the dirt, from the magic circle to the dungeon incident, and asks for Mr. Cordell's true identity. Turns out, he's a demon spy. His original plot was to curse Amyu and make her accidentally die, but now his cover's blown, and he plans to off Seika. But Seika is all, not so fast. He reveals that the curse is already on one of his talismans. He explains how the curse uses demon blood, and since Amyu got splattered during the demon attack, it was a perfect setup. Mr. Cordell is shocked, but right then, Seika summons a demon he caught in their last skirmish, slices it open, and gets drenched in its blood. After chanting a spell, he zaps the curse back onto the teacher, who drops dead on the spot. Seika struts out, pumped to start a normal life at the academy. Later, he gifts the ring to Yifa, hoping it'll help her grow stronger. Just then, he spots Amyu in the distance. But when he calls her over, she replies all cold, but acts friendly with Yifa. Seika's confused, but Yuki explains that Amyu is probably just shy. At the academy dining hall, Seika and his friends are chatting it up while munching on their meals. He notices there haven't been any demon attacks since he stopped the last one, and that kinda bums him out since he had all these plans ready. Out of the blue, the weird, bearded vice principal barges in, calling Seika and Yifa to the principal's office. Seika's gut tells him something feels off, off, and he doesn't catch the strange girl lurking in the shadows, watching him and his friends. Following the vice principal's orders, Seika and Yifa head down the long hall to the principal's office. Of course, he notices the principal is a demi-human, but she's not a fan of that label. Seika apologizes, and they get to business. The principal wants him to join a competition, representing the school with another student. All of a sudden, in walks a red-haired girl who introduces herself as Mabel Crane, the one who was creeping on them earlier. Amu flips out because she wasn't picked to represent the school, even though she's the strongest. They chat about the competition and how the school's never participated before, but Yifa points out that they changed the rules to let magic play. Sounds like the school's trying to boost its rep, but Amu's still salty about not being chosen, and Seika relays what the principal said. She thinks Seika and Yifa are the better picks. This just ticks Amu off more. When they ask if she really wants to compete, she claims she doesn't, even though the prize money is tempting. The thought of joining the Royal Guards doesn't thrill her either, but she hates that they didn't ask her. Seika suggests the academy didn't want to send someone too strong. Amu shoots back that Seika is strong. He insists he's not, but she doesn't buy it. Although she gets why the school picked him, she questions why they're sending Yifa too. After hashing that out, the trio steps outside, and Amu keeps chatting about the competition. She's not feeling Mabel's skills, thinking she might just bail out. Just then, Mabel steps up, having heard Amu talk smack, and calls her weak. Amu's rage and amusement boil over, and she challenges Mabel to a duel. The two fiery redheads gear up to face off. Mabel hesitantly picks up her sword, not really seeing the point of this fight. They both get into stance, and Seika can totally spot Mabel's legit technique. Yifa is nervous, but Seika calms her down, seeing it as a chance to check out Mabel's skills. He gives the signal to start, and Amu zips in, but her attack gets blocked with ease. They both show off some slick swordplay, but the fight wraps up super quick as Mabel easily disarms Amu. She's all about her victory, but as she walks off, Amu calls her out for using dark magic when it was supposed to be a pure sword fight. Seika notices it too. Mabel totally used gravity magic on her sword, but Mabel's like, "That's why you're weak." She even tells Seika to step up if he wants to play seriously. Seika thanks her for the tip, and Yifa rushes over to check on Amu. Amu shakes off the fall and makes a bold declaration she's made up her mind. And just like that, Seika finds himself sharing a carriage with Mabel and Yifa on the way to the competition. Only thing is, he's lost on why Amu is tagging along. He asks if she cleared it with the school, but she dodges the question, guilt plastered all over her face. Yifa notices Seika's looking a bit queasy, and Amu's shocked to learn he gets motion sickness. She turns to Mabel, asking her to show her upperclassmen some respect. But Mabel's all, we're the same age. I just started school late. Amu's mind is blown, and Yifa pipes up that she started late too since she's older than all of them. That realization totally stuns Amu. Watching their playful banter, Mabel can't help but think they seem like a bunch of clueless kids living carefree. Seika asks what's wrong with that after all. They are just kids, but he decides not to push her further and keeps quiet. They finally arrive and wander around, but Seika feels dreadful thanks to his motion sickness. Suddenly, they realize Mabel has vanished, so they head into the competition grounds. The trio checks Seika's name on the tournament board and gets to know who he's up against. Once they've seen what they need, Seika pieces out, telling Amu and Yifa to explore a bit. Yifa looks pretty bummed out, wishing she could tag along, but Amu steps up to comfort her, saying sometimes guys just need their space. Meanwhile, our meticulous dude decides it's time to dig into why the principal sent him off to this competition in the first place. It's competition day, and the host kicks things off, laying down the rules and ramping up the hype. She introduces the first contender, Seika Lamprogue, and the crowd goes wild, his friends cheering like crazy. Seika's up against a rogue noble named Dennis Regan, a swordsman who got kicked out of his family for being too reckless. Regan struts in all confident, throwing shade at Seika, but the match is about to get real. Feeling cocky from Seika's chill vibe, Regan lunges in for a stab, but Seika pulls off a slick teleportation spell, popping up right behind him. Using some wind magic, he blasts Regan right out of the ring, ending the match before it even really starts. Back with his crew, Yuki pops up in his hair, reminding him to keep his head down and not stand out. Next up, we've got Sage Ford versus Kyle. But wait, Kyle pulls a move with his evil eye, putting Sage in a freeze frame. Seika can sense something's off, but there's nothing he can do as Kyle strolls over and stabs Sage in the gut, wrapping that match up super quick. Seika is now wary of this Kyle guy, but has finally got a handle on his evil eye trick. In the second round, Seika faces off against Labanare, the puppeteer, keeping things on the down low. Seika summons an Ayakashi, one of his tamed monsters, that wrecks Labanare's golem. Labanare waves the white flag immediately, handing victory over to Seika. As he's walking down the hallway, Seika tells Yuki about the no summoners rule, and that he'd be booted if they caught him using one, joining his friends Yifa and Amu. Amu notices Yifa's anxiety, and shares that Yifa's been on edge since Kyle's fight, suggesting it might be safer for Seika to just bail out. Yifa asks if Seika really wants to join the Royal Guard if he wins, but he brushes it off, saying he intends to decline. Amu can't imagine Seika actually losing. She just can't see it happening. As they're chatting, the next match kicks off with Mabel Crane going head-to-head with Howlo. Howlo starts strong, but Mabel easily dodges his initial attacks. Realizing that his mid-grade magic isn't cutting it, Howlo escalates, throwing down some serious magic. But Mabel? She's unfazed. As she gears up, Howlo throws up some walls to defend, thinking he can block her attack. But Mabel counters with gravity magic that turns her rapiers and daggers into absolute weapons of mass destruction, weighing a ton. With her crazy power-up, Mabel charges at Howlo, and he quickly realizes he's way outmatched. He can't do anything but surrender, handing Mabel a solid win. The commentator sings her praises, dubbing her the red-haired hero. Seika turns to Amyu, curious why she's got that title. Amyu tells him it's because of a hero from back in the day with the same name and weapon. Later, Seika bumps into a demon spy and intercepts a messenger pigeon about to take off. He demands to know what the message is, but the spy won't spill. Just as the spy tries to jet, Seika's quick to act, binding him with vines. With the spy stuck, Seika starts questioning him, but he stays tight-lipped. So, Seika brings in Satori, an Ayakashi that can read minds. Satori digs up all the info Seika needs about the hero, and as a thank you, Seika tells Satori to chow down on the spy. After Satori takes care of the spy, he turns to read Seika's mind, making him feel guilty about the whole eating the spy thing, even though he knows it was necessary. Seika stops Satori from going further by threatening him and sends him away. He then apologizes to Yuki, who's visibly shaken by the whole scene. Next, Seika checks out the pigeon with the message, but he can't crack the code. Still, he figures out the school's aiming for the fake hero, Mabel, to snatch attention, keeping the demons away from the real hero, Amyu. Yuki asks how he came to that conclusion, and Seika explains that since Cordell found Amyu, the school probably did too, but the demons lost track of her when Seika took out the spy and assassin who knew her identity. Yuki wonders if Seika isn't curious about Mabel's origins, but he thinks it's probably just a cover name and doesn't want to go digging. As long as Mabel's in the spotlight keeping Amyu safe, he's good. Back at the tournament, Kyle dominates his second match like it's nothing, crushing his opponent with the Evil Eye's power. Meanwhile, a young knight named Reynas wipes the floor with his foes, using earth and wind magic and showing off fire and water skills in his next battle, making waves throughout the tournament. His next opponent throws in the towel. As for Seika, he's set to face a necromancer in the third round, but this dude's no match for his talents. Mabel also wins her match easily, but then she finds Seika in the hall and tells him to bail on their semi-final match. Despite her strong threats, Seika stands his ground. Suddenly, it's announced that since both Reynas and Kyle took their matches by default, they'll do their semi-final showdown today. During their match, Reynas powers up with night magic and also tries to boost his evil eye resistance. Kyle strolls toward him calmly, dodging every one of Reynas' attacks. Realizing he's in deep water, Reynas summons several golems, but Kyle obliterates them all with shadows. In a wild move, Reynas charges Kyle, and Kyle takes that chance to pin him down by stabbing Reynas' shadow with his own. He's announced as the winner and moves on to the finals. Later that night, Yuki asks Seika if he plans to throw the match the next day. Sensing he doesn't seem in it to win, Seika shoots back, "No way," indicating he's ready to hit the hay. But then, he sees Yuki in her human form chilling next to him. He's surprised and asks what's up with that. Yuki whines about wanting to sleep next to him, clearly loving the moment while Seika's just baffled. As he's getting cozy, he suddenly senses something through the eagle's vision. Without thinking, he dives to shield Yuki from an incoming attack. Yuki, however, is lost in her own fantasy about the two of them snuggling. It turns out, the attacker is Mabel, attacking Seika with battle-hungry intensity. Just when things are getting heated, a man pops up, adding to the chaos. But Seika is quick on his feet, scaring the guy off. Mabel realizes the jig is up, vanishing into the night. Seika reassures Yuki, who's back in her animal form, that everything's cool and suggests they spend some time with Mabel, since she came all the way just to take him down. Seika spots Mabel, who pulls out her dagger like she's ready for round 2. He quickly tells her he's not here to fight, pointing out that she's not really a dagger fighter, she's more about that heavy weapon life. Mabel's puzzled, and wants to know why he's following her if it's not for a brawl. Seika suggests they chat instead, hinting he might think about bowing out of their fight if she shares what's bugging her. Mabel's caught off guard by this proposal after their earlier skirmish, and admits her goal is to injure him just enough to force him to forfeit the next day. Seika shocks Mabel by revealing he knows she's here in Amu's place, but believes there's a bigger reason behind it all. Mabel's taken back, confessing her role is to get taken out by Kyle to make the demons think the hero is dead. She spills that the Rugrock Merchants Association takes kids with potential and turns them into mercenaries. Both she and Kyle were raised by them, and the association's main goal is to see if Kyle's nailed the mercenary game. Mabel explains how the association transforms kids into mercenaries by drilling a hole in their skulls and implanting magic into their brains. This wild procedure makes the kids lose all feelings and forces them to obey any order. She goes on to explain that the kids gathered to become mercenaries are split into teams of 4 at the training camp. Only one of those 4 gets the surgery, but to qualify as a mercenary, that kid has to kill their 3 teammates. Talk about a brutal initiation test. Mabel tells Seika he has to take out Kyle in the finals, since Kyle's the one who offed her brother, but Seika catches on to her lie, noticing they share the same eye color and that her hair is just dyed red. Mabel, realizing the gig is up, admits the truth. Before Kyle's surgery, he told her to help him escape if he ever stopped being himself. She's determined to stop him, believing death is the only way out, no matter if she wins, loses, or runs away. The Rugrock Merchants Association will take her out. Then Seika, jumping in like a superhero on a mission, stands up and says he'll defeat Kyle instead, insisting she doesn't need to die. He tells her to head back to the academy, promising her safety and that he's the strongest. Mabel, touched by his words, thanks him but still insists she'll take down Kyle. Seika, all confidence, says he'll prove he's the strongest. It's time for the second match of the semifinals. Mabel faces off against Seika, wielding a huge weapon like a one-handed sword, using gravity magic to make it lighter. Seika tries to snag her with his Binding Vine spell, but she pushes back. So, he cranks up the weight of her weapon 1,000 times and ensnares her with Mercury Binding Vines. He lifts her axe up, claiming victory and his place in the finals. As he walks away, he reassures her that it's alright and she should leave Kyle to him. Now the final battle kicks off between Seika and Kyle. Kyle seems bummed that Mabel isn't the one standing in front of him, saying this isn't what they planned. Seika shoots back that after he beats Kyle, he'll have to apologize to Mabel. Seika unleashes some red smoke to hide his moves from the crowd and hurls several attacks at Kyle, but Kyle is totally unbothered. He just keeps strutting towards Seika like he owns the place. That's when Seika summons Ushioni, a massive beast that throws Kyle back, leaving him sprawled on the ground. As Seika gets closer to check on Kyle, a spell seal suddenly activates and attacks him. Seika quickly puts up a barrier to shield himself, but the curse still nicks him, making Kyle cough up blood. Unable to take it anymore, Kyle dies. Furious, Seika tries to bring Kyle back, but Yuki steps in, reminding him of his vow not to use the resurrection spell in this life, and recalling the harsh fate that made him reincarnate. Seika, realizing she's right, reluctantly backs off. He looks at Kyle's lifeless body, a mix of anger and sadness washing over him, but he knows he has to stick to his promises and the lessons learned. The tournament wraps up, and Seika lies to everyone, saying Kyle vanished because he obliterated him without a trace. Seika moves Kyle's body into another dimension, wanting to give him a proper burial. At Kyle's grave, Mabel confesses she saw this coming and suspects her brother was cursed. Seika reveals he knows her real name because Kyle kept calling it. He also apologizes for the whole four-leaf clover incident. Understanding its meaning, Mabel breaks down in tears. Once she gets a hold of herself, she asks what's next for her. Seika reassures her that she'll go back to school and everything will be alright because he'll take care of things. Seika meets up with his friends while walking with Mabel. Amu challenges Mabel to a sword duel with the rule of no magic, but in classic battle fashion she uses magic anyway and wins, gloating about it. Then she extends a hand for a shake and invites Mabel to practice together. In the principal's office, Seika spills everything he knows about Mabel's scheme, the fake hero act, and how the plan was for him to win and bring her back to school. The principal confirms the association had it all meticulously planned so Kyle would win and make their mercenaries famous. They treated the kids like tools, nothing more. Thanks to Seika, Mabel is safe, and the association lost their prized possession, Kyle, which they totally deserve. The principal advises Seika that Mabel will need his help and he should look out for her. Seika searches for Mabel, but she's changed her appearance, so he doesn't even recognize her right in front of him. The moment he figures it out, she tries to bolt, not wanting to study with him because it feels too tough. At lunch, Seika drops some news on his friends. When Amu asks about summer plans, Seika mentions he's been unexpectedly assigned to investigate a dragon in the kingdom of Astria. Amu wonders why he got picked, and Seika explains he's going in place of his busy dad. Yifa adds that his grades are awesome, so it makes sense his dad thought he was perfect for the job. Amu and Mabel offer to tag along, but Seika says they should hang out with their parents instead. Then he turns to Yifa, asking her to join him, and she agrees. As Amu asks when they leave, suddenly, Celilio, the crown prince of Astria, strolls into the room, impressed by the academy's building and thinking about rebuilding it. His assistant snaps him out of it, and the prince approaches Seika. Seika assures him he didn't need to make the trip, but the prince replies he wanted to see the Empire's magic academy while meeting him. Out of nowhere, Prince Celilio's eyes land on Yifa, and he can't help but be captivated by her beauty. He surprises everyone by saying he wants her to join his country's harem as one of his wives. The room goes dead silent as everyone's taken aback by the prince's bold proposal. Staying cool, Yifa tells the prince she's Seika's slave. The prince then turns to Seika, trying to buy her off him for a nice amount, but his assistant quickly cuts in, reminding him that this isn't the right time for that. Later, in a private room with the prince, Seika asks for the scoop on the dragon his dad mentioned. The prince reveals that the dragon of Astria has been coexisting peacefully with the people for over a century, but lately, it's been acting weird. Seika asks why the dragon was chill with the people until now. The prince explains that the queen of Astria hatched the dragon from an egg, and the story is steeped in legend. He hopes Seika can check into not just the dragon's bizarre behavior, but also the truth behind those legends. The prince keeps glancing at Yifa, trying to ask her out for dinner, but his assistant, Lies, quickly intervenes, advising him to hold it together. Reluctantly, the prince and Lies take their leave. As Seika walks down the road, he gets pulled aside by Amu Bartholomew and Mabel, who are anxious and ask if he's really going to give Yifa to the prince. Seika firmly says no, unless Yifa wants it. 2 days later, Seika and Yifa hop into the prince's carriage and start their journey. As usual, Seika gets carsick from the ride since he's not used to it. Yifa mentions that the prince asked her to ride in his carriage before they departed, but she's unsure what to respond because she can't believe he'd actually want a girl like her in his harem. Seika reassures her that the prince is serious, which makes Yifa happy, but still, he can't shake this uneasy feeling about the whole thing. Fast forward 9 days, they arrive at Protoaster, the old capital of Astryria. The prince tells Seika that ever since the dragon started rampaging, everyone's been on edge, making trade tough. Suddenly, the dragon shows up, hovering over the area and looking ready to attack. In response, someone conjures a lava tiger that chases the dragon off, but then sets its sights on Yifa. Seika quickly binds the tiger with his spell, but just as he's about to cast another spell, the lava tiger breaks loose and charges at him. Luckily, the summoner manages to restrain it and makes it vanish. The prince gets on the summoner's case, revealing him to be Zekt, the head of the mercenary group hired by the prince. Then, the prince introduces Zekt to Seika, who's definitely intrigued. Zekt throws shade at Seika for being such a young emissary. Seika fires back, asking why the prince hired a mercenary, and the prince says it's to take down the dragon, believing that's the only way to get rid of the threat. Seika tries to get him to rethink that idea, saying the worst-case scenario is if the dragon takes off and attacks another country. Zekt doesn't back down and starts bragging about how he's fought tons of dragons, which just gets under Seika's skin. The tension is building, with both of them sticking hard to their views. Seika stresses the need to understand the dragon's behavior and find a peaceful way to handle this, while Zekt just believes in fighting it out. Suddenly, the prince steps in, telling Zekt to cool it and sending him on his way. He warns Seika too, but Seika keeps arguing against killing the dragon. The prince tells him to stay out of it. Seika apologizes, then turns to Yifa, getting on her case about not using her magic to protect herself, reminding her he won't always be around to do it for her. The prince tells Seika not to be so hard on her, but Seika snaps back, telling him to butt out, and reiterates to Yifa that she needs to use her magic for her own safety. As they head back to their carriage, Seika feels guilty for being tough on Yifa, but remembers an older student from his past life who was eaten right in front of him. He doesn't want Yifa to end up like that. The next day, they hit up the library to check out some dragon documents, and find a book that confirms the tale of a dragon hatching from an egg by the queen, living peacefully with people. It also mentions a male dragon moving to the mountains with a female dragon. Then, 50 years later, both dragons start attacking people, which matches up with what's happening now. Seika figures that back then, the rampaging was due to them having babies and not enough magical power to support everyone. But Yifa points out that this time, there's only one male dragon, so that can't be the reason. This new info leaves Seika scratching his head, thinking there's gotta be something else behind the dragon's violent behavior. He decides to climb the mountain to check it out, but Yifa, worried, tells him it's too dangerous. He reassures her he won't fight the dragon and will skedaddle if things go south. She wants to come along, but he insists it's not safe for her. Later that night, while Seika is studying, Yifa pops in to say the prince wants her. Seika tells her she doesn't have to go, noticing she's a bit freaked about being alone. He invites her to stay. He offers her the bed, but Yifa insists it's big enough for both of them. As they lie down, he asks her what she thinks about the prince, and if she's considering being part of his harem. Yifa says no, but Seika encourages her to be real about it. Feeling hurt, Yifa wonders if he wants to kick her to the curb, but Seika clarifies that being invited to a royal harem is a big deal. He would miss her, but everyone has to choose their own path eventually. This lightens Yifa up a bit, and she says goodnight, promising to think it over. And the next morning, Yuki tells Seika he was too rough on Yifa, saying she feels sorry for her because she's had a crush on him since they were kids. So, Seika decides it's time to confront the prince. He asks why the prince called for his servant the night before. The prince says he just wanted to talk, and asks Seika to help him apologize. Seika snaps back that if the prince really wants Yifa in his harem, he should do the apologizing himself. The prince then throws in a wild question about whether Seika would just hand Yifa over, but Seika stands firm, only if Yifa wants that. Lastly, Seika mentions he's planning to climb the mountain, and the prince warns him to be careful since it's risky. Seika waves goodbye to Yifa and heads out. With Seika gone, Liz approaches Yifa to poison her mind about him. She tells Yifa that Seika is a monster, and all elemental spirits steer clear of him not because he lacks magic, but because he gives off vibes like a demon's miasma. Yifa defends Seika, insisting he's human and pointing out they grew up together, but Liz won't budge, claiming Seika is dangerous and urging Yifa to join her on a harem tour. Meanwhile, Seika reaches the mountain super fast, riding a giant crab he summoned. As he gets close to the dragon, it tries to roast him with fire, but Seika throws up a barrier to protect himself. He summons an Ayakashi, but it quickly gets thrown back and defeated by the dragon. Seika then traps the dragon in a net with his spell. As he walks toward the dragon's nest, he sees its egg. It dawns on him that the dragon must have changed from male to female to lay an egg after its mate died. Over with Yifa, she's on that harem tour with Liz. Liz tells her that the current queen of Astryria, the prince's mom, is a top-notch ruler who's super loved by the people. The prince, however, is worried he won't live up to her legacy, which is is why he's rushing to claim glory with the dragon situation and why he's eager to find a wife as soon as possible. Lies tries to sweet-talk Yifa, telling her to stick by the prince's side and back him up. Meanwhile, Sika is building a rapport with the dragon by helping it care for its egg and warming up the rocks around it. He starts feeling tired and thinks he should go tell the prince that the dragon isn't a threat to the city. Just as he's about to bounce, the dragon growls and pulls him closer, blocking his way out. After the tour, the prince is busy filling out paperwork to free Yifa, ready to throw down all the cash to make it happen. But Yifa doesn't like that idea and reminds him they need Seika's okay to free her. The prince says he'll approve it, and if Seika doesn't agree, he'll order all slaves in Protoaster to be conscripted and force Seika to sell Yifa to him. Yifa stands her ground, asserting she gets to choose what she wants. Then, when an officer tells the prince the paperwork is ready and they need her thumbprint, it turns shady. Seeing Yifa reluctant to comply, the prince gets all bark, commanding the guards to hold her down. Just as Yifa is about to use her magic to break free, Lies stops her with a barrier that nullifies her powers. Lies then uses her magic to slice Yifa's finger, letting blood drip out for the thumbprint. At that moment, Seika makes a dramatic entrance. Riding on the dragon, everyone's jaw drops at this scene. Seika explains that he needs someone with fire magic to keep the dragon's egg warm. He extends his hand to Yifa, asking her to follow him, leaving the prince and the crew in shock and ruining their nasty plan. Once at the dragon's nest, Zekt summons his lava tiger from hiding, which immediately tries to strike at Yifa and Seika. Seika holds it back with his spell and calls out for Zekt to show himself. Zekt appears with his crew, admitting he was after the egg all along and had been playing the prince for a fool. Realizing he messed up, Zekt lets the tiger go, but as it charges towards them, Yifa surprises Seika by taking it down with her water spell. Zekt refuses to accept defeat, summoning the tiger again along with his crew, but Seika steps it up and uses a powerful spell to turn the tiger to ash. The dragon scares off Zekt's men, while Seika uses his binding vines to trap them, ensuring there's no escape. Yifa burns Zekt's spellbook before he can do anything else. Seika pats Yifa on the head, praising her for her bravery and how much her magic has improved. Back at the palace, the prince orders that Zekt and his men be thrown in prison to pay for their treachery. He then turns to Seika, asking what he found out. Seika shares his big revelation. The dragon was acting weird because it had laid an egg and accepted him to help raise it. This leads him to believe in the queen's story about hatching the dragon from an egg. To the dragon, humans were its parents, and that bond continues with its offspring, making sure Protoaster stays safe for generations. Seika urges the prince to honor this ancient favor by helping the dragon hatch its egg, reuniting the dragon and the people of Protoaster as one big happy family again. But the prince's response is a total bummer. He turns down Seika's request, focused only on his own ambition to be seen as a great king. To him, the dragon is just a tool for his rise to the throne. So, our not-so-great protagonist decides to play the self-righteous moral card. When Seika straight up refuses to play along with the prince's demands to take out the dragon, the prince gets all dark and broody. He views Seika's defiance as a serious threat to his grand plans, so he cooks up some shady accusations. He starts spreading lies, claiming Seika used magic to make the dragon act all wild, totally bogus. Just a lame excuse to justify his own sketchy behavior. Seika initially thinks about going with the flow, but his patience runs out with the prince's desperate attempts to coerce Yifa into marrying him. In a flash of frustration, he calls out the prince, calling him immature and totally unworthy of Yifa. And just when things are getting super tense, Lisa's laughter cuts through it all. She jumps in, telling the guards to chill out, and urges everyone to think about what Yifa really wants. And empowered by Seika, Yifa confidently rejects the prince's marriage pitch, declaring she wants to head back to the academy with Seika. Lies, realizing the prince is just wasting his time, turns her attention back to him, telling him to drop the pursuit. She thanks Seika for helping with the dragon, and asks to have a word with Yifa in private. In their private chat, Lies gifts Yifa some healing elementals and hints that Seika will come to understand her feelings sooner or later. With that, she wishes Yifa well. As Seika and Yifa make their way back to the academy, Yifa drops the bomb that she's got elvish blood, which explains her epic elemental magic skills. The new info weighs on her, making her pause before confronting Seika about Lisa's mysterious warning about his true self. She's not quite sure how he'll react. Just then, a new group of villains enters the scene, making things way more intense. Mutarev, Pierslaria, Loni, Gulganis, and their ruthless captain show no mercy as they wipe out a monster set as bait by a kid. The kid tries to fight back, but the captain effortlessly takes down the monster, and then they sneakily devour the kid. In their mission, take out the hero, even if it means they bite the dust in the process. Meanwhile, in another kingdom, the princess gets the heads up from her guard that they're ready to roll, so she starts prepping to leave. Back at the academy, Seika invites Amu and Mabel over, explaining that his dad wants to meet a top-tier swordswoman who can use all magic elements. Seika's sure his dad will be stoked to meet Baron Crane's daughter. Both Amu and Mabel are in for the hangout. After saying goodbye, Seika mutters that he's not exactly eager for the family meetup. Yuki overhears and questions him, noting that he sounds super hesitant about going home. Seika admits he's dreading it because someone special at the mansion wants to meet them, and that's the source of his nerves. Plus, politics always complicate stuff. Yuki suggests Seika skip the trip if he really doesn't want to go, but Seika says he can't just do whatever. The overly careful dude doesn't want to stand out like he did in his past life, which totally backfired on him. On the next day, Seika arrives home to a big welcome from his brother Luft and Yifa's dad, Edis. Seika introduces Amu and Mabel, and they make some small talk, but things take a turn when his brother Glai challenges him to a fight, bringing up an old embarrassment. Amu catches the tension and asks Yifa if Glai was her bully, and she confirms it. This fires Amu up enough to challenge Glai to face her instead. Seika, always the conceited fool, backs her up and says Amu's stronger than him, suggesting that if Glai wins, then he gets to fight Seika next. Glai's all in, and makes Seika the referee. The duel kicks off, and at first, it looks like Amu has the upper hand, but then Glai pulls a fast one, disarming her and claiming victory. Amu accuses him of cheating, but Glai just smirks, saying it was a cunning trick. When Amu asks for a rematch, Glai turns her down, insisting Seika keep his promise and face him. Just then, the princess rolls up, intrigued about watching the duel. She jokes that it's fate she's here. Glai questions her solo wandering, and she playfully says everyone ditched her, or maybe she ditched everyone. Glai warns her not to stir up trouble for his crew, but she brushes it off and tells him to keep going with the duel because you can always learn from losing. This chat annoys Glee enough to forfeit. The princess then asks Seika to introduce her to his crew. Seika introduces her as Princess Fiona Erd Alaglyph. Everyone gasps in surprise her title as the princess precedes her. They then head inside. As they make their way, Yuki quietly asks Seika why the princess's rank is such a big deal. Seika explains it's not about ranks. She's called that because of her priestess and royal lineage. Next up, Amu wonders why the princess is visiting. Fiona jumps in, saying she's heard a lot about them. She mentions how Amu crushed it on the entrance exams, can use all 4 elements, and is an incredible fighter. The princess internally reflects that Amu fits the vision her mom had before she passed, and the princess thanks Seika for accommodating her spur-of-the-moment request, and he reassures her he's happy to help however he can. She mentions she would love to have him as her knight, but it's unrealistic. Instead, she asks Seika to see her off when she heads back to the capital, and to make sure she's treated well during her visit. Seika thinks that sounds good and agrees. The princess takes her leave, and when they sit down for dinner, she expresses her wish to fly if she could be reborn, and Seika quips about her becoming a bird. She clarifies she wants something super cool, like a dragon. Seika shares his dragon encounter and his friendship with Yifa, making the princess tease about their bond with a wink. Yifa quickly clears it up, saying she's just Seika's servant. The princess wonders if the academy takes in servants and commoners, bringing Mabel into the conversation. Mabel, however, reveals her adoption by the Crane family, and Seika suggests a duel between Mabel and Glai, which Mabel politely declines. Meanwhile, Seika's dad recalls a convo he had with Edris, who was upset about Yifa being sent to the academy as Seika's servant, calling Seika a bastard. Seika's dad defends him, saying he's a good kid who never causes trouble at school. Back in the present, Seika's dad asks how school's going, and Seika assures him everything's great. His mom then nudges him to write home more often, which surprises Seika, reminding him of the neglect from back in the day. Once everything's wrapped up, Seika's chilling in his room, talking with Yuki when Amu bursts in. Yuki hides as usual, and then Seika and Amu chat about their plans once they finish the lower grades. Amu shares she wants to become an adventurer, and Seika reminds her he promised to tag along, synchronizing his own plans with hers. After they chat, Amu heads out. Yuki then brings Seika back to his original game plan, getting close to Amu to hide his own abilities. The next day, the whole crew goes out for some sightseeing in the city. Glee informs Seika they're the only ones handling any issues since the guards are chilling at home. While at the market, the princess suggests they hold hands to avoid getting lost. They go around, picking up fun stuff and just enjoying their time. Then, the princess spots something interesting and asks what it takes to get closer to someone. Seika jokingly says that saving your significant other might do the trick. Amu chimes in, saying it works like a charm. The princess lights up at the idea of someone swooping in to save her and gives Seika a glare. Amu finishes the thought, saying she totally gets the vibe. Seika, trying to be funny, claims that in Amu's case, she'd be the one doing the saving. As they keep on sightseeing, Seika and the princess still hold hands. Amu, feeling a pang of jealousy, asks Seika when he plans to let go of the princess's hand. The princess insists that Seika stay close since who knows what craziness might happen next. As they stroll along, they spot some construction going on. Glee warns them not to get too close, but of course, things go a little sideways. Amu and Glai spring into action, making sure the princess and Seika are safe. The princess thanks Amu for saving her, looking a bit bummed that it wasn't Seika who did the hero thing. Glee mentions it's time to head home, and before they bounce, Seika grabs a cute hair scarf for the princess, who promises she'll treasure it. Later, Seika runs into Glai while he's training, and they chat about the knight title and how the princess can see into the future, a gift from her oracle priestess mom. Seika's curious if the kingdom kingdom knows her true identity, and Glee says they have no clue. But he adds that the princess really wants to meet Amyu, so it seems like Amyu is the destined hero, something Seika kinda already guessed. Their talk goes on, and Gly points out that the princess is also eager to see Seika. He advises Seika to be careful and not get in her way, since she has some big visions for the Empire's future. The next day, the princess is on a mission to find Seika, wandering around and calling out his name. Meanwhile, Seika's chilling in the garden with Yuki. Yuki asks if the princess's future-seeing skills are anything like Seika's, and he clears that up. No worries, he tells Yuki. As long as he steers clear of the princess, there's no danger. At that moment, Amyu shows up, sharing that she's been training with Gly but hasn't won a single bout. Seika's shocked a hero like her can't beat Gly. Amyu then asks what he's up to, and he admits he's trying to avoid the princess. Amyu points out that the princess totally seems into him and reminds him she'll be leaving soon. She also mentions that the princess has been playing chess alone and looks kinda down, so Seika decides he should go talk to her. When Seika finds the princess, he asks why she hasn't invited anyone to play chess with her. She tells him no one wants to play because they think they can't win, but then she invites him to a match. Seika says he's not that great and thinks if pros can't beat her, he's got no shot. She promises to take it easy on him, and he jokes that he's not skilled enough for her to hold back, so he might actually snag a win. The princess proposes a bet. Loser does whatever the winner says. Seika's in. While they're playing, the princess asks which piece Seika thinks is the strongest. Seika fires back that it's the piece controlling everything like politicians. The princess lights up at his answer. She says most would pick the king or a knight, but his answer is a keeper. When Seika asks if he's right, she confesses she's not sure, but believes the strongest piece is the people, as they surround and support everyone. Seika agrees, pointing out how rebellions can flip governments, but most of the time, people just end up getting used. And their convo flows on, and the princess mentions that people have the numbers, which makes Seika wonder if that's why she wants to make her name known. She admits it is, saying she doesn't have a king or knight backing her and prefers to utilize a piece people often overlook. She then drops a bombshell. She's about to win the game in 7 moves. Seika bows out, acknowledging her skills. The princess asks what would make him trust her, and he says knowing a secret or reading her thoughts would help. She spills a hilarious childhood secret and reveals she wants to save someone. She keeps it vague, not wanting to change the future. When Seika asks if that's why she wants to see Amyu, she's cool with him thinking that. Their chat ends with Seika saying he's down to help her. She's happy, and hints she'll think about her next move since he lost the chess game. Meanwhile, Mutarev, Loni, Pierslaria, Gulganis, and Captain Zormnim are munching on the defeated. Gull pushes Zormnim to eat, but the captain brushes it off, saying he doesn't have to. He reflects on how he's come to appreciate his growing power as a tool to reach his goals. Seika's all set to head back to the academy with his pals, Amyu, Mabel, and Yifa. The princess is also ready to head home, and as promised, Seika's there to send her off. They exchange goodbyes with Luft, and the princess thanks him for his hospitality. On the way back, Seika and Glee are chatting, and Seika wonders if it's safe for him to be around. Glee says the princess is his top priority. Suddenly, they're ambushed by bandits, but they go for a decoy carriage. Seika steps up to take on the bandits himself. As arrows fly toward him, Seika unleashes a magnetic storm to deflect them. The bandit leader tries to coordinate a strike against Seika and another carriage, but soon realizes he's messed up when his goons tell him all the hit carriages are decoys. He orders the Topaz unit to throw their magic at Seika, but it's no use, he comes out on top. Glee yells for his army to protect the princess, while she asks Seika to capture an enemy alive. He agrees and pulls it off with a spell. Seika shares the latest with Amyu, Mabel, and Yifa, revealing they noticed one of the carriages lagging behind. By the time they showed up, everything was already sorted, and thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Yifa points out it's odd for bandits to attack an army-escorted carriage, and Seika nods in agreement. Seika chats with the princess, who drops the bomb that the bandits were assassins. He mentions she kept them alive as evidence against her political foes. She confirms it, but adds she needs to discover who sent the attack first. When Seika asks if she has any suspects, she says there are loads but no clear targets. Seika inquires if she's taking them all back to the capital, and she says yes, explaining she foresaw the attack and brought extra carriages. She says having them walk would delay their trip, and she doesn't want Seika to miss the semester kickoff. Seika thinks it's a bad move since the assassins might get away and strike again, but she reassures him that won't happen. Once they hit the capital, they part ways. The princess tells Seika she's on his side and to remember that, no matter what. Back with Zormnim and his gang, he gears them up for the next fight, telling them that once they take out the hero, they'll all be heading home together. Everyone shares their ambitions, and Zormnim pumps them up, promising they'll make those dreams a reality. At the academy, Seika's in a meeting with the principal, who wants him to represent the student body. Seika's like, sure, Sounds cool, but he's not too keen on where it might lead job-wise. On his way back, he talks it over with Yuki, who's unsure if stepping into the spotlight is the right call for him. Seika contemplates if his past has made him a bit cowardly, or if he should be aiming for the top dog. But he's stoked he met his friends at the academy, and is ready for the next chapter as an adventurer. He decides he'll start acting normal from now on, without being afraid of standing out. Yuki's curious what normal even is, asking if Seika would run from a brawl. Seika says he'd figure out how to deal with it, even if it means dodging a fight, to which Yuki replies that's not really what normal is. Seika comforts him, saying as long as they don't know who's pulling the strings, it's all good, and he asks Yuki to stick close since they've got a busy ride ahead. Meanwhile, Zormnem and the crew roll up to the academy. Even though nothing seems off, Zormnem can't shake this weird fear. Addressing his gang, he reminds them about their mission to hunt down the hero. He lays out the plan. They'll flush students toward the central building from all directions and then keep the chaos going there. If they spot anyone who looks like the hero, they're to signal with their special magic item. If they can't find the hero, the mayhem should draw them out. Zormnem reassures his crew that it's all for a noble cause to secure the future for demons and promises they'll all make it home safe. As they kick off their plan, a weird fog rolls into the academy. Loni and Pierce Laria stick close, and Loni mentions that the fog doesn't bother him because he's got an awesome sense of direction. Pierce Laria gives him props for being reliable lately, which catches Loni off guard. She says she's noticed how much he's grown in dealing with his monsters and with his feelings. Low-key, Loni thinks he's still the weakest, but Pierce Laria assures him he's improved a ton. She talks about her own new confidence. She used to struggle during peaceful times, but now she's proud of her skills. She can't wait to tell her parents how she helped take down the hero. Out of nowhere, Loni hears footsteps and sends out his beast to check it out. The beast comes back with something mysterious. Meanwhile, Mudarev runs into Mabel. In a quick fight, Mudarev asks for her name, but Mabel wants to know who he is and what he's after instead. Mudarev introduces himself, all like he's going to take her down. Mabel wonders if he's been hired for this, pointing out he's not like anyone in the Merchant Association. Mudarev, confused, denies knowing what she means. Mabel brushes this off, vowing not to let him take another step before they clash. Mudarev swings his weapon at her a bunch of times, while Mabel shields herself. He comments on her defensive stance, which ticks her off enough to attack him. He dodges, but he's shocked at the damage her attack does to the floor. Impressed, he admits she's got some serious moves. Mudarev strikes Mabel, knocking her weapon away. She brings out her magic, but Mudarev tells her he's resistant to all magic. As they fight, Mudarev corners Mabel and goes for a hit, but he's stunned to see her disappear, leaving just a talisman behind. Meanwhile, Gul'Ganis meets Zormnem at a totally random place. Gul questions Zormnem, pointing out this isn't their usual meetup spot, but he admits he felt drawn here. Zormnem feels the same, and soon the whole crew has gathered there, looking confused. Pierce Laria makes a comment about how strange humans are, and Zormnem shows off a talisman he found. The others pull out similar talismans. Realizing how dangerous and awkward everything is, Zormnem suggests they should back off, but before they can move, Seika shows up, reciting a poem about a swordsman who fought Ayakashi. He breaks it down, warning them to watch out for visitors at dusk, because something that seems harmless can turn deadly. Seika then clarifies that every person they met was actually one of his Shikigami. He mentions to Mudarev that the girl he fought was real and quite strong. Mudarev agrees, feeling Seika's strength too. Zormnem, using his powers, realizes they can't compete with Seika. Mudarev makes a foolish challenge to Seika and gets taken out instantly, shocking everyone and sending them into a panic. Seika notes that Mudarev should have trained harder. Pierce Laria jumps in right away, trying to use her evil eye on Seika. Even with Zormnem warning her to stop, she goes for it. As she tries to unleash her power, Seika summons a white snake that hits her hard. Loni rushes in, trying to tame the snake. Zormnem tells him to get back, but it's too late. The snake swallows Loni whole. Seika explains that Loni can't tame the white snake because it's born out of human hatred. Zormnem starts to rethink their choices, realizing it was a mistake to think they could beat Seika. Gul'Ganis offers to distract Seika so Zormnem can make a getaway, but Zormnem insists Gul should just run using his teleportation. Seika, knowing their mission, reveals he's protecting the hero. Zormnem tells Gul to let their people know that Seika is the demon lord, and he's defending the hero. Seika unleashes a powerful attack, taking out Zormnem, but he notices that Gul manages to escape. Using a talisman, Seika tracks Gul down and finishes him off. Moments later, Mabel rushes to Seika, telling him about the attack she faced. Seika reassures her, and she realizes he's already dealt with the threat. Seika then warns Mabel to keep their encounter a secret. Later, he's chilling with his friends Amyu, Mabel, and Yifa, chatting about his upcoming speech. They tease him for being scared, but he brushes it off. Yifa mentions she'd be super nervous, and Seika turns to Amyu, asking how she felt when she had to give that big speech for the school. Amyu Amyu confidently says she wasn't nervous at all, claiming she was kind of a rebel back then. She reminisces about a demon interrupting her speech, sharing her original plan to get stronger to protect her friends, defeat monsters, and be an adventurer. She wanted everyone to know they should all get along and chase their dreams. Yifa chimes in, saying it's a good message. Deep down, Seika notices Amyu's cluelessness since demons were after her. Then, he says he's off to give his speech, and his friends are all pumped for what he's about to say. But as Seika makes his way to the podium, a group of Dirac knights suddenly barges in, demanding to see Amyu. When they spot her, they accuse her of a serious crime against the Empire for slaying a demon emissary who visited the academy. Amyu, totally confused, denies it. Regardless of her denial, the knights command her arrest, and Seika's face shows major concern. While they take Amyu away, Mabel looks like she's ready to jump in, but Seika stops her, saying Amyu will be fine and he trusts her innocence. They watch as Amyu gets led away. Later, Seika meets with the principal to talk about Amyu's situation. The principal admits there were demons at the school, but claims she doesn't know who dealt with them. She wonders if Seika thinks it's her fault for Amyu's arrest. Seika reassures her, explaining it seems like the Empire is using this as an excuse to eliminate the hero, though he isn't sure why. The principal responds that not everyone is driven by greed and politics can get messy. She adds, she's putting pressure on the Imperial Court from all angles and advises Seika to chill and not act too hastily. Seika asks how long it'll take for the pressure to actually help, being concerned about Amyu's safety and whether she might end up in a suspicious situation. He quickly apologizes, acknowledging the principal is doing what she can to help save Amyu, and expresses his thanks before saying goodbye. Outside the door, Yifa and Mabel tell Seika that if he decides to go rescue Amyu, they're ready to back him up. Seika joins them, explaining that the principal is on it and they should have faith in her efforts. That night, Seika, fuming, summons Ryu, a dragon, and questions whether he's worthy enough to be its master, showing off his strength. Yuki, sensing Seika's anger, suggests he should consider letting go of Amyu in this new world. She warns that unleashing his fury on the nation's most important people will draw unwanted attention and could lead to a fate like his last life. Seika brushes off Yuki's worry, stating there's only one hero, and if people witness his power, he'll make sure they don't live to tell about it. Yuki asks why he's so mad and urges him to think about it. Seika, flashing back to a past memory, snaps at Yuki to be quiet, questioning if she's trying to boss him around. Yuki goes silent, and Seika hops on Ryu, commanding it to head west to find Amyu. Meanwhile, Amyu sits in prison, contemplating her situation and worrying about Yifa and Mabel. She wonders what's going to happen to her. Just then, a visitor arrives, but before Amyu can react, Seika strides into the castle where she's held. Using his talisman, he pinpoints her exact location. As he moves closer, a group of knights guarding the area tells him not to come any closer. Ignoring their warnings, Seika presses on, prompting the knights to hurl arrows at him. Seika defends himself with a spell, creating a magnetic storm that deflects the arrows and takes out the knights. As he pushes deeper into the castle, Seika runs into another group of knights who see him as a major threat. He warns them to back off, promising to spare their lives if they do. When they refuse and attack, Seika summons a deadly monster that effortlessly wipes them out. Finally, he reaches Amyu's cell. He's trying to convince Amyu to take off with him, but she's hesitating. She's worried about what might happen to his family and all the mess it could cause. Amyu keeps saying she'll be let go eventually and tells Seika to just go back to school, but Seika's not backing down. He insists that as the hero, her life is on the line. He warns her that those without power are scared of those who have it, and if she sticks around, they'll come after her. Amyu hears him out but feels torn. She gets how serious this is, but can't shake off the worry about the fallout. Seika's dead set on keeping her safe, no matter what. As he's trying to get through to Amyu, he feels someone lurking and goes on the offensive, but it's his brother Glai who jumps in to block his attack. Seika suggests a duel since that's what Glai wanted earlier, but before things can heat up, the princess chimes in, saying there's no need for a brawl. Seika realizes she must have seen this coming and demands that she spills what's up, or if she's just gonna throw more weaklings his way. But the princess explains they're just making sure no one messes with him because they know how dangerous a fight with Seika could get. Seika hits her with the big questions. Why are they targeting Amyu? It doesn't make sense to go after her when they have a clear enemy in the demons. The princess says both the Demon King and the hero are relics, and right now humans and demons both have their own armies. Seika's still baffled. Why does that mean they gotta take Amyu out? If she's not a threat, why not just ignore her? The princess drops the bomb that just having a hero around could ignite a war, which is the last thing anyone wants. The demons are probably feeling the heat too, so they're sending hitmen. It's not about winning but stopping a war before it starts. She digs deeper, saying Amyu can't become the next hero because Seika's always protecting her from the tough stuff that strength builds strength. If Seika thinks his power is all it takes to help her, things aren't gonna go how he hopes. Seika fires back, asking if that means he should just let Amyu die to keep the peace for everyone else. The princess quickly says that's not her plan at all. She and the academy are doing everything they can to keep Amyu safe. What she really wants is for Seika to bounce and trust them to look after Amyu. It's like she's reminding him of their promise made over that game of chess. Seika's like, why would I trust you? And the princess gets that he's skeptical. Then she offers a different option. He can take Amyu and leave. She tells Glai to stand down, and they head over to a carriage. The princess explains they're off to the free city of Rachna because she's already got them covered for the next steps. Amyu thanks her, and Seika apologizes for not keeping his promise. In response, he brings her fallen soldiers back to life. The princess notes that Seika's move has made things more complicated for her because she was gonna claim a powerful demon attacked the castle. Regardless, they say their goodbyes. So, Seika and Amyu are cruising in the carriage and talking about all the craziness that just went down. Amyu's like, wait, I didn't get what you and the princess were talking about, and asks Seika to break it down. He promises to fill her in once they hit the capital, and then checks if she knows how to ride a carriage. Meanwhile, the princess is faced with a shadowy figure wanting to know about Seika and marveling at his power. She reveals that Seika is actually the current Demon King. The shadowy figure is shocked and refers to Seika as His Highness, the Demon King. Totally confused as to why he'd care about a human, the princess explains that Amyu is really important to Seika. She reminisces about how, back in the day, she tried to meet Seika over and over, seeing him use his power for good even though he knew destruction was around the corner. She describes him as a genuinely nice guy. Back in the carriage, Seika and Amyu are worrying about how their friends, Yifa and the gang, are gonna freak out. They both know they'll have to apologize later. Seika asks Amyu if she regrets anything, and she says nah, she doesn't. They reassure each other that they got each other's backs as they kick off this new adventure together.